I called the August 27th, 2025 meeting of the San Jose City School Board to session. We're called to order at 4 p.m. We have no public comment and no cards. I'd seen none, then we'll be recessing to closed session in order to review public employee performance evaluation, public employee discipline dismissal release, conference with labor negotiator, conference with legal counsel for existing litigation, and conference with legal counsel for anticipated litigation. We're recessed.
Now reconvening the August 27th, 2025 meeting of the Santa Rosa City Schools Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for our territorial land acknowledgement.
Testing. You can hear me? Oh, okay. Thank you for having me. Reconozco que las escuelas de la ciudad de Santa Rosa se encuentran en el territorio tradicional y las tierras natales del pueblo Pomo, el territorio tradicional y las tierras natales del pueblo Miwok de la costa, y honro con gratitud la tierra misma y las personas que la han cuidado y administrado a lo largo de las generaciones. Ese reconocimiento de la tierra nos llama a comprometernos a seguir aprendiendo cómo ser mejores administradores y cuidar de la tierra que habitamos. Al ofrecer este reconocimiento de tierras, afirmamos la soberanía indígena y trabajaremos para que las escuelas de la ciudad de Santa Rosa sean más responsables ante las necesidades de los pueblos indígenas y nativos. I acknowledge the Santa Rosa City Schools is in the traditional territory and homelands of the Pomo people, traditional territory and homelands of the Coast Miwok people, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. This land acknowledgement calls us to commit to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of the land we inhabit. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold Santa Rosa City Schools more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous people. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for being here today. We'll move on to report of actions taken in closed session. The board voted unanimously to approve a settlement agreement. For items considered in closed session for action in open session, there were none. Are there any statements of abstention tonight? All right, seeing none, are there any adjustments to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move to
Pull item 14 from consent.
all right, consent item 14. Any other adjustments? All right, we will move on to the reports section of our agenda, starting with CSEA, President Mary Lehman.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening, President McNally, trustees, interim superintendent August, cabinet, and everyone here and listening tonight. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you to our classified staff, teachers, and community members for the amazing work that has made back to school possible. We worked hard to ensure that every campus was ready, and we are still working. The reality is the impact of the consolidation, staff downsizing is stressful due to the large number of classified layoffs. Fewer workers are doing more work. The strain is real, and our staff is feeling it. How have we survived the first 2 weeks of the new school year? We are riding the wave and trying to stay afloat. Many of us are underwater. Board members, we need your support. Our desks are overflowing and there is no relief in sight in either workload subsiding or help. We are stressed. Not just at the school sites, but all departments. Maintenance and operation crews, custodians, warehouse drivers, technology assistants, secretaries, HR, accounting, payroll techs, library techs, registrars, health techs, business office and special services. Nothing has been taken away to allow them to cover extra duties due to the increased workload. For the most part, teachers followed their students to the new sites. Classified office staff, instructional assistants, and other staff did not follow their students. New administrators, new teachers, new classroom moves, everyone needing everything now. We are hearing that our duties are being transferred to supervisors, and we'll be looking into that. In addition, reduced administrators at sites is adding more duties to many of our team members, not less, and the more administrators at other sites is doing the same thing. Further, team members are being asked to complete requests from district staff members immediately and leaving site responsibilities for the completed later as a second priority. We will be sending out a survey to our members to identify their workload concerns and report back to you. Everything is still in motion and will continue to be. There is not enough time in the day. Can we propose a resolution for 30-hour days? If you missed the first school board meeting of the year 2 weeks ago, on the first day of school at the historic Lewis School location, it was the smallest audience I'd ever seen. And even tonight, the audience is small. We want to congratulate our new trustee sworn in, Donna Prack. The 45-day budget update was presented there also. It showed that the deficit had improved from 10 million to 5 million, and that we still remain 12 million below the state's required reserve. How are we going to protect the programs and people our students depend on? Let's keep our focus on what unites us, the students. Board members, what we can tell you is that we need your support now and in the coming months. With courage and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you, President Lehman. Now, I've been told that there is no report from SRTA tonight. All right, then we will move to our superintendent's report.
Thank you, President McNally, members of the board, and our community here in person and online. I'd like actually to start, if we may, with a moment of silence for the shooting that occurred today at the Catholic school. Yes, if we could take just a moment for that. Happens all too often. Thank you. Also wanted to recognize the passing of SR Fax, the beloved crossing guard Cece. While she wasn't one of our employees, she was a member of our family. And so just wanted to acknowledge that, and our thoughts and feelings go out to her son, Scott, who is also a crossing guard there. So just want to acknowledge that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to acknowledge a couple of things. I will actually start off on a positive note, and that is in regard, well, the next part of my report on a positive note, and that is that I have had the great joy and pleasure of getting to each of our sites in the last couple of weeks. And I've also had the opportunity to visit most of our support operations. Not everybody, but I have gotten into quite a few of those spaces. The highlight of my time has been conducting classroom observations. And I just want to say how awesome it is to see students engaged in active learning. And especially, I think my favorite was the third grader telling me how many combinations that you could have 15 different combinations of 2 scoop ice cream cones if they had 5 different flavors at the ice cream shop. And just the excitement on the face in there when you walk in and see the kids engaged, and same level of engagement as I've observed classrooms at the high school level as well. So really excited about that. Just have to share that's probably my favorite part of my job. So want to talk about our transition updates and acknowledge that overall it's gone well, but we definitely have some challenges that we're working through. I know that we did not have every room to the standard that we had wanted. And as we've talked about the things, I think the big things happened and we missed some detail pieces. And that's, something that we continue to work on. And so, we are definitely looking at what's happened, what's gone right, what's gone wrong, and how we improve that for next time. I did acknowledge last time the incredible work of our CSEA partners, and I just want to continue that and also express appreciation for the teachers in those moves that happened as well. Another example of an issue where we missed the mark that we're working on is we do know that there was crossing guard transfer that was missed between the move between Santa Rosa Middle and Santa Rosa High. And so we do have that now secured, and we have an expected start date for 2 crossing guards there as of September 2nd. So as issues are coming up, we are working to get them addressed. One of the areas that I know is of extreme interest, it's very important for us, is our 10-day count for enrollment and attendance. We have very preliminary numbers right now. The difference, what we have right now are our actual physical counts of students, which still has to be reconciled with our actual enrollment and the attendance taken throughout the day and the other supporting programs. So we have non-public school placements and things like that that are not actually recorded within our actual student counts. So that's why we aren't sharing a lot of information about that. What I will say is that it does overall reflect a loss of approximately 500 non-charter students compared to last year at Census Day, so October of 2024. That is around the expectation, the expected number. And enrollment does continue to fluctuate throughout the year. Average daily attendance based solely on those physical student counts is slightly above our projections at 92% versus they were projected at 90.5. And the community, that number directly influences our budget. So where we would have a target to get to this year would be a 96% attendance. If we can get to a 96% attendance, we have recovered instructional minutes for students, and we have an impact to our revenues that allow us to continually offer quality programs. So those are things that we'll be providing updates on and focusing on in our work going forward. An area of concern that was raised previously is due to the reconfiguration. People were concerned that we would have a large drop in our 7th and 8th grade enrollment, and we did not see that. It came in along the lines very close to projections. Also, it's again helpful, I think, for our community to understand and support that it is really important for students to be in school, to be in class, not only because it helps us to be able to continue to operate great programs, but because those instructional minutes, that impacts the actual, what they're able to get out of their education. Some key messages related to our budget is that we do have declining enrollment and lack of funding, as everyone knows, from state and federal. And that does necessitate the identification of ongoing budget reductions. So I just want to make sure that we keep that at the forefront, that while yes, we have a lot of great things to move forward with, we also have a lot of challenges, and it's going to take us all to get through that. This budget solutions will be significant. The board took bold action to consolidate and close schools. And I mean, I think we've said it many times, that's the hardest thing that a board does. And there's still more work to be done. And we get to think and rethink, reimagine how we provide programming to our students. I want to say it very clearly that we are committed to maintaining local control so that budget and resources are aligned with our community values. That's something that we do retain by maintaining that control locally, is making sure that any changes align with what our needs are and our values for our students and our community. I know it's a little bit lengthy today, sorry. Chromebook updates, I know this is, another area that we struggle with every year. And again, we know that this year there were some changes that obviously impacted our ability to get Chromebooks out, especially, the work that our tech team did over the summer, getting sites ready. When we don't collect Chromebooks back and we have summer school that occurs almost immediately after classes, we don't have that opportunity to bring the devices in, to refurbish them and to get them back out there. So that's one issue. Also, with the move to Chromebook carts at 7th and 8th versus the 1-to-1, that was a big change and requires a lot of work, heavy lift. It looks at the update that I got from our tech team earlier from Director Bika, is that the high schools, we did get delivery or transfer of Chromebooks to the sites this week. And we do have distribution that is ongoing there. The middle school and junior high schools, looks like Santa Rosa High, the carts are in the classroom, but we do have some 8th grade Chromebooks to be collected. Comstock carts are in the classrooms in progress. We have a lot of movement going on. I have to really address the lessons learned that Adrian shared. Don't make decisions about distributions the last week of summer. That definitely is a learning opportunity for us. The summer school transition, obviously, and something that we've paid for in the past is white glove service related to when we receive technology and distribution, and that severely impacted our ability to get Chromebooks out to sites, is that we did not purchase that, which means that our staff has more of a burden on them. So multiple things. We have other areas that we've identified as well so that we can continue to improve, to learn and improve as we go forward. Just want to start or wrap up by saying thank you to everyone for your grace with each other, with us, and we will continue to get better and work hard together. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent August. Next is my board president report. I still have no actions to report. I haven't been able to visit any sites yet, but I do want to say thank you to all of the teachers that have been emailing me just about your experiences with the transition and your thoughts on some of the board policies that we're working to update. Even if I don't reply to your email, I am reading everything and I really appreciate your perspectives. I will turn it over to other board members for reports. Do Trustee De La Torre, then Trustee Jenkins.
Thank you, President McNally. Just a huge thank you to our community, our classified certificated staff. None of this got going without you. We hear you, Mary. We see you. We respect the work that's being done, and we do want to be supportive in all the ways that we can. So continue to stay engaged, continue to communicate, continue to speak with what's on the radar. The new school year has begun. That does not mean it's not begun without challenges, and we will face those challenges together and make things better as we go. The more experiences we have, the more collaboration, the more time we have to work together and communicate transparently, then the better our opportunities are to fix what needs to be fixed. And ultimately, every decision that's made is student focused and student driven. That's what we're here for, making the best opportunities possible for our students to achieve their academic goals and success. I would like to share that we are starting a Sonoma County Schools Trustees Association that will be open to all trustees throughout the county in a partnership with SCO. So really looking forward to opportunities to continue to grow leadership and connectivity and have conversations to not work in isolated silos any longer and lift each other up and help each other and solve the problems that every district is facing, not only throughout the state, but throughout the country. And this County Trustees Association is going to be an opportunity for trustees to share information and talk about resources and opportunities to better each individual district across the board. Continue to stay engaged, continue to send emails, make phone calls, keep us informed so that we have the information necessary to make the best decisions moving forward.
Trustee Jenkins?
I'm so thankful that we're back with these microphones. I actually didn't write anything down. I just wanted to give a shout out of appreciation to all of our staff, all of our facilities people too. We as trustees get kind of a weekly update on things that are happening. And man, did a lot of stuff get done. And I didn't quite realize how much stuff got done. But it's very impressive. And so thank you to everybody. Thank you to all of the teachers and staff. I haven't heard much negative, which is kind of honestly surprising just in general in the community. And I love that. To just reiterate the importance of communication in the direct, in manners that are effective. So, you know, obviously for the community not to necessarily come to us directly until they've exhausted other forms of communication to get things done by the appropriate people in the most effective ways. I'm really looking forward to this year. So I also absolutely recognize that it's going to be a really, 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 really challenging year. But I do think that if the communication continues to be transparent and people are working together and realizing that the work that is being done is people are doing their absolute best across all lines. Just to kind of keep that in mind, fully recognize this is going to be a really, really hard year, and we'll get through it together.
Any other trustee
To
report?
jump on that with Sarah's comment, we get a lot of negative stuff. Bring all the positive stuff too. That's probably the best. We did get some information from parents that they were a little hesitant going into this as a 7th grade parent. And their 7th graders having a really good time the first couple weeks. So this is great information for us to receive. Invite us to showcases, games, awards, opportunities in your classrooms. We want to be involved as much as we can, and we want to communicate all of it, not just the bad stuff that you're worried and upset about, but all the good stuff too. Please keep it coming.
Do either of our student board members have a report tonight? Okay, we'll start with student board member Oliveira.
An important part of my day at Ridgeway High is taking my Sabre High exams. Mr. Swift, a teacher at Ridgeway, has offered to take some time out of his day so students are able to take their exams and get the credit that they need despite the budget cuts. And I would like to say a big thank you to him. And I would also like to explore other possible opportunities so this can happen more for other students.
Thank you. And student board member Carrillo?
Does it work? There you go. Okay. I really just want to say that it's for my school specifically at LC, I've talked to a lot of my peers and students, not only just seniors, but also the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen that arrive. I have a younger brother who's just arrived at the school, so I've got an insight of what they believe and what they've been thinking with the whole new 4x4 schedule. And so far, it's all been positive reviews from the students. They've all figured that going from 7 classes and them all being separated into individual days from the block periods, from having the same 4 classes every single day, has been a weird transition, but a good transition on them. Since it's no longer having different classes every day, they would have the same ones, same faces, and it was just an easy adjustment. And I think that's an amazing thing that we've been having for the first 3 weeks of school, that we've had no issues, no problems with that. And I'm just happy to hear that many of my peers and students are having a great time with this. So have I.
That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing. All right, then
Sorry,
we will,
can I go back to one more thing?
yes, of
We've
course.
also been receiving reports on the new student council that we're starting up again. We've been receiving a lot of what's called applications for people to join. And so it's been a positive thing so far, and we can't wait for it to get started. To have so many students from every school.
Great, thank you. All right, we will move on to public comment on non-agenda and consent items. I have just a few cards here, so I'm going to allow 3 minutes each. I'll call 3 names at a time. First is Amy McCoy, followed by Bobby Hayslip, followed by Angela Gigliazza.
Good evening, board members. My name is Amy McCoy, and today I'm speaking as a concerned parent and advocate for the theater arts program at Santa Rosa High School and the ArtQuest community. Over the past year, the theater arts program has faced repeated disruptions due to unstable and inadequate storage facilities. The program was displaced from its long-term costume and set storage space in room 34, forced into a temporary room, and ultimately moved into the school's basement, which is a space that is known historically for flooding. As a result, students and staff have already lost thousands of dollars in materials and continue to risk the loss of irreplaceable costumes and props. These challenges aren't just logistical, they're educational. Students are losing valuable class time moving materials around instead of rehearsing, building, or learning. They're working in overcrowded spaces where one room is being used as a classroom, a performance venue, a workshop, and a changing area without proper storage. This isn't a new issue. The theater arts program has been shuffled between spaces for over a decade. What we're asking for now is clear, a secure, on-site, and sustainable solution. And from what we understand, the former yearbook room in the basement may be a practical choice if it's cleared, secured, and committed to as a long-term solution for at least 5 years. That's what we're asking for. Additionally, the district should take responsibility for protecting materials stored in any at-risk areas and support these spaces with proper signage and access control. Theater arts is a vital part of SRHS and ArtQuest, and these students create original work, learn real-world skills, and make our district proud. But they need more than your verbal support, they need your physical space. Please act now to ensure our arts programs are treated equitably and supported with the resources they need to thrive. My own personal comments on this, or 2 cents, if you will, is that I feel given the disruptions and uncertainty that has hit or unfolded the past few years between fires, COVID, school closures, principal changes, some more supportive than others, and censorship, I think the board's ability to take a step forward in support would really signal to these kids that their program is important to the district and help them in feeling seen and heard after everything that's transpired. And so that would be our hope. And it also kind of floors me, given the community that we live in. There's so many industry professionals that work and live here or have second homes here. And it would
Thank
be
you.
really
Your
nice
time is
to
up.
have their influence.
Next. Yes, thank you. Next is Bobby Hayslip, followed by Angela Gigliazza, followed by Margaret Boone.
Hi, my name is Bobby Hayslip. I have a lot of sentiments along the same with Ms. McCoy here, concerned parent of an ArtQuest student. I'm also on the Friends of ArtQuest board. So I've seen over the last few years the impact district changes have made to the program and to the students and to their feelings about the district. ArtQuest, prior to the consolidation, accounted for a quarter of the school. The program, due to different transfers, brings in over $750,000 a year for the school. Having their storage taken away, having a lot of their spaces taken away in general has been detrimental. Due to previous issues with censorship, the students already feel slighted. They already feel like they're not cared for. And taking away the storage is another issue. We have looked into several options. We've contacted other agencies, institutions, the junior college. We've talked to Ridgeway. We've looked into pod storage. None of those are feasible. On top of Friends of ArtQuest already does a lot of support for ArtQuest, for the theater program. And ArtQuest specialties attempt to ask the district of very little, but this is important. The basement that that is being proposed for storage is moldy. It is not safe. It is prone to flooding. And so we are asking that the district secure a place that this storage can happen. Otherwise, we're looking at something off-site. These materials are not going to be accessible to the students, as Ms. McCoy was saying. That's going to cut into educational and production time. And again, the students feel the lack of care from the district due to the changes and having different things stripped away from them. Due to the impact this program has on the students, Santa Rosa High School, and the community, we are truly hopeful that you can find a resolution for the storage. This is thousands of hours of work, thousands of dollars of materials that are essentially looking to go to waste. So that is our request, that we can hopefully find a equitable storage solution that works for everybody and does not impact student ability to actually get things done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Angela Gigliazza, followed by Margaret Boone.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Angela Gigliazza, and I was really coming up here to welcome Donna Prack to the trustee board and thanking her for taking the position. I wanted to put a face behind the email that I send for the invitations to come to the gatherings that we have that are completely informal. And I wanted to thank her for responding to those emails so quickly and signing up for a couple times to come and visit us. And at the same time, I would like to thank Mark and Sarah and Nick and Jeremy for showing up as often as they can come. So it was just here to say hello to Donna. I hope maybe she's listening. Take care.
Thank you. And last is Margaret Boone.
Good evening. I wanted to start on a positive note. The new building at Montgomery is gorgeous, at least from the outside. I haven't really been inside. I'll need to go tour some classrooms sometimes. I know there's some stuff that needs to be finished, a few missing air conditioners, which hopefully are in the works, but it's great to finally have the building, have the parking lot fixed, and the fences are lovely. My concern is space. When we consolidated schools, there were some choices that were okay as long as they were temporary, but we are becoming concerned that they aren't temporary. Things like we have 2 ESN teacher teams who share 2 bathrooms. Usually each room has a bathroom, or at least they should. We thought we can wait a year and a half to get our real classrooms, but there's nothing in the works. Seemingly these are the classrooms, in which case they are insufficient. At Santa Rosa High, the ESN teachers are sharing one big classroom. I can't imagine trying to teach 2 subjects in one big room simultaneously. Similarly, we have nowhere for IEP meetings at Monty or Santa Rosa High. In our co-taught classes, the special ed teachers are sharing rooms with gen ed teachers. Where do they prep? Where do they hold their IEPs? We're out of PE lockers in Montgomery. Every locker is taken. If we get one more kid, we will not have a locker for that kid. We're already doing middle school sports at the old schools, but in a year, Santa Rosa Middle School will be taken. Where will the kids go? Our PE teachers are tripping over each other trying to serve our kids. They need bigger, better gyms and more classrooms. We lost culinary, one of the all-time most popular classes. Our art classes don't have storage to put away their supplies. Yesterday, I found out our music teachers at elementary schools have nowhere to teach. At one school, they're teaching on a stage in the cafeteria behind a curtain. That's not workable. Our ESN classes at elementary lack in-class bathrooms as well. At Monroe, the nurse and speech pathologist are sharing an office. Our elementary classes are full,
packed to the gills, but we have one more school to close. Where will those kids go? It's one of our biggest schools, over 400 plus more kids to redistribute. There's no room. What plans do we have moving forward to add more space to these schools? I know Monty just got a building, but we already need another. The elementary schools need more classrooms. Santa Rosa High needs more room. And I know the bond is limited, but we need to focus on how to make more space. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to our consent items, seeking a motion on items F1 through 13.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved by trustee Caston, seconded by trustee Jenkins. Roll call vote.
Student Board Member Carrillo.
I
Student Board Member Olivera.
Aye.
Trustee Caston.
Aye.
Trustee Jenkins.
Aye.
Trustee Kirby.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
President McNally.
Aye, motion passes. All right, is there discussion on item F14?
So I asked for that to be pulled, and I'm just hoping to get a little more clarification on sharing with our community exactly what this need is and why this is important and why we're taking this action so that we can make sure the right information is getting out there and people understand the International Teacher Program and why we're utilizing it.
Good evening, everyone. This feels really far away. Here we go. Good evening, Interim Superintendent August, Board President McNally, members of the board, members of the public. In order to address some of your questions, we have vacancies or had vacancies. Currently, there's still vacancies in hard-to-fill subject areas such as math, science, and special education particularly, as well as Spanish is one that we were hoping to fill, and we actually were not able to get a Spanish teacher. But these are vacancies that were in existence at the end of July. And we had exhausted the applicant pool, and we did not want to go a full year with long-term substitute teachers. We were fortunate to come into contact with IAG, which is a company that hosts international teachers from all over the world. These are teachers that have at least 3 years experience, but some upwards of 15, 20 years experience. For example, the chemistry teacher that we have hired for one of our schools has 22 years experience teaching chemistry. So these are not new teachers. These are not inexperienced teachers. These are not teachers on intern or temporary credentials. These are teachers that are fully credentialed, fully English speaking, and we are able to bring these teachers over on what is a J1 visa. A J1 visa is a temporary visa. It is a cultural exchange where we're able to bring teachers from 3 to 5 years. So at the 3-year mark, we decide if we're going to go all the way to the 5-year mark. At that time, the teachers normally would return to their home country. And occasionally, such as with some teachers from the French school, they choose to try to stay longer by pursuing a path to citizenship. The difference with this company and how we work with our French teachers is that for our French teachers, we host the J1 visas. We are the sponsors. For IAG, IAG is the sponsor of the visa, and they take on all the heavy lift of getting people appointments with the consulate, getting their visas in place. They meet them when they get here from whatever country they're coming from. They find them housing. They take them to get their social security numbers, to get their driver's licenses, show them where the grocery stores are, and provide support in the way of professional development and assimilating, in a sense, to the American education system as compared to the education system in some of the other countries that they're coming from. Currently, we have put out letters of intent to teachers from Ghana, Cameroon, and Colombia.
How are these paid and what is the cost associated? Because it gets a little blurry. Is this, we're not able to fill the position internally, so we have to go to an outside agency? And there's obviously a cost to that?
Yeah, so there is a cost that's involved, and the teachers are paid as any other teacher would be paid. So they are able to become SRTA members, but they are under the SRTA contract nonetheless. So they are paid the same as if they were teachers from California. The cost to us from the company is 20% of whatever the teacher's salary is. However, there is then the savings of the 19% that we pay into CalSTRS for the teachers. These teachers are considered sojourn teachers and are not eligible for CalSTRS. Therefore, we do not pay the 19% that we pay towards CalSTRS for teachers from California. Also, there is a savings that is associated or potentially associated with health insurance. So when the teachers come, they have the option of taking the district insurance. If they choose to do so, they have to pay for an additional supplemental insurance that covers repatriation in the event of, in a catastrophic event, and a few other technicalities about getting people back to their home country if necessary. If they choose to keep the insurance from IAG, which is 100% full medical, dental, vision, and additionally the supplemental insurance, the district saves the $13,000-ish that we pay for 100% Kaiser. And we pay to IAG the $3,700 a year to cover the teacher's insurance. And again, this is an option for them. Typically, from what we understand, they choose the option of IAG so that they don't have to pay for the additional insurance.
And if this goes through, when would these teachers be available and start?
The process takes from 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how quickly a teacher can get a visa appointment. But as soon as they get their visa cleared, then they are able to come to the United States. They have a period of professional development that they do with IAG before they come into the classroom. And all of the teachers that we're bringing, their credentials are cleared through CTC.
And what are we doing right now with those vacancies, since these are vacancies?
So with those vacancies right now, we have substitutes in those positions. Those are positions that have been open since the spring. We have not been able to fill them. And even with bringing the teachers from IAG, we still have science, special education, and math vacancies that have not been filled, and where we currently do not have any viable candidates.
Trustee Jenkins?
With the state of the federal government right now, does that pose any additional challenges bringing in teachers from other countries?
It does not. IAG works directly with the California State Department to make sure that the teachers can be brought to the country, to our country on the cultural exchange visa. The reason it is less of an issue at this time is because it's not a path to citizenship. It is a temporary work assignment, and they are required to go back to their country in either 3 to 5 years.
Trustee Kirby?
You said that IAG was helping to train these teachers. Is there someone at the district office that's going to be responsible for mentoring them while they're getting their feet within our
Yes,
district?
absolutely. So IAG provides ongoing professional development, but in addition, as new teachers to the district, they would have mentors and they would be eligible for the induction program through North Coast School of Education. So they would have all the same experience as if we hired a new teacher with the additional support from IAG.
You brought up the medical and dental insurance portion of that. I wasn't clear. Is that covering their family, entire family, or just them? How does that work? Because you said it was just kind of a flat rate. Is
Yeah.
it?
Well, they
cover both?
they come as individuals. They are not able to bring their families with them. So it is just the individual cost. And because IAG has so many teachers across the United States, their insurance rates are quite a bit lower than ours. So the $3,700 a year covers all of their medical, dental, vision, et cetera, as opposed to the over 13,000 that we pay into full coverage Kaiser.
Okay. Lastly, you said that they're eligible to become SRTA members. So this process is allowed by the SRTA CBA?
Yes, the same with our French teachers that come. They are fully considered teachers of the district. They just happen to be here on a temporary visa.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or a motion?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by trustee Caston, seconded by trustee Kirby. Roll call vote.
Student Board Member Carrillo,
Aye.
Student Board Member Olivera,
Aye.
Trustee Caston,
Aye.
Trustee Kirby,
Aye.
Trustee Jenkins. Aye. Trustee De La Torre,
No.
President McNally.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we will move on to our discussion and action items, starting with a series of resolutions. I'll hand it over to Superintendent August.
Thank you, President McNally. We're looking at ways to make our board meetings more efficient and spend time in less busy agenda months in bringing forward our resolutions and things of that nature. And so what we would like to do is we have all of the resolutions listed under one action. And so we would bring each of the speakers up to speak for no more than 2 minutes on each resolution, and then ask for action all at once at the end. First resolution, Stacy Desideri and Eric Lofchi, with September as suicide prevention.
Thank you, Board and Superintendent August and members of our community. I'd like to hand the mic over immediately to Director Lofchi, who is our lead for mental health and community schools development.
Our first resolution tonight for consideration is a resolution recognizing September as Suicide Prevention Month. As this board has supported and continues to support mental health interventions, and this recognizes September as Suicide Prevention Month, continuing that commitment.
Our second presentation is the resolution to recognize September as Attendance Awareness Month. As Superintendent August mentioned in her superintendent's report, one of our continued commitments is that students learn when they're at school. And so helping engage our community and our schools and our students in both the positive reasons to come to school and tiered interventions to support families when their children are struggling with coming to school will be our focus. We have a variety of activities that are planned for September to engage not only our schools, but our families in a greater awareness of why attendance matters. So thank you for your continued commitment to attendance awareness being an important part of our month.
Thank you. And Stacy, if you'll remain for the next resolution, and if we can have Shayna Kirk come join us, please.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I thought that the third one was Latinx Heritage
Oh,
Month.
I apologize. You are correct.
But I'm okay with jumping ahead.
I apologize for that. That was me skipping. I had moved too far down on my agenda. With Trustee Medina not here, I will go ahead and introduce the resolution. So each year from September 15th to October 15th, our nation observes Latinx Heritage Month, celebrating the histories, cultures, and contributions of Americans whose ancestors come from Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. This month honors the rich diversity, resilience, and influence of the Latinx community, whose voices, traditions, and leadership are woven into the fabric of our schools, our community, and our country. Recognizing Latinx Heritage Month affirms our commitment to inclusivity, cultural awareness, and the celebration of the many identities that strengthen our district and enrich the education of all students. My apologies. Now, if Director Desideri and Ms. Kirk. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we thank the board's continued commitment to honoring and recognizing and elevating some of our most marginalized and vulnerable community members. Tonight, I'd like to introduce a community member, staff member, and one of the inaugural members of our new community engagement initiative, Shayna Kirk, who is here to speak tonight on the LGBT resolution.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hang on.
Oops, sorry.
There you go.
Good evening, Superintendent August, President McNally, members of the board, and to the public. I'm thankful to be back here this evening to speak on this resolution declaring October as LGBTQIA+ History Month within Santa Rosa City Schools. So simply put, representation matters. Youth across all types of cultural backgrounds need to see reflections of themselves in the education they receive. That includes queer families, different gender presentations, the ability to learn about incredible role models and heroes throughout history, representing a broad spectrum of culture, some currently at risk of erasure in museums, national parks, monuments, and other sites of federal recognition. I do appreciate Santa Rosa City Schools continuing an important conversation on their commitment to the rights, visibility, and safety of this community, especially in a time marked by fear and uncertainty for many. Students deserve to feel seen, protected, and recognized as a valuable part of this district's history and integral to shaping our future. So not to mention that our state has wonderful protections in place to support these efforts in education. Assembly Bill 1078 is the Safe Place to Learn Act, providing the requirement for inclusive curriculum within our schools. Senate Bill 48 is the FAIR Act, which largely protects and supports our educators in their efforts to provide fair, accurate, inclusive, and respectful reference to contributions by members of the LGBTQI+ community in history and social studies curriculum. And that's just the beginning, because there's more. But as we move through a new school year, I look forward to seeing continued participation of board members in school events that engage with diverse groups of students and build up a stronger sense of community. I look forward to seeing a sense of trust and safety being built up through word and action. So I'm happy to be introducing this resolution tonight and to help support further engagement opportunities with our district and LGBTQI+ community partners. So thank you so much.
It is important to acknowledge that this resolution not only includes an honoring and recognition of the LGBT History Month, which is important when we consider our curriculum, but it also specifically names October 11th as honoring National Coming Out Day. During the spring, we have 2 additional resolutions that will be honoring the National Day of Silence and Pride Month. So this is a commitment that we really celebrate all year long, but this is our fall resolution.
Thank you. I will also, am honored to have the opportunity to introduce our resolution for Indigenous Peoples Day. Indigenous Peoples Day, observed on October 12th, replaces the former observance of Columbus Day and serves as a time to honor and celebrate the histories, cultures, and enduring contributions of Native peoples. This day acknowledges the sovereignty, resilience, and diverse traditions of Indigenous nations while also recognizing the injustices they have endured and continue to overcome. By uplifting Indigenous Peoples Day in place of Columbus Day, we move toward a more accurate, inclusive, and respectful commemoration of our shared history, affirming our commitment to truth, equity, and respect for the first peoples of this land. Our next introduction is for our administrator, Week of the School Administrator. The Week of the School Administrator, observed October 13th through 19th, 2025, provides an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the dedicated leadership of school administrators who ensure that students, staff, and families are supported every day. Principals, assistant principals, district office leaders, and other administrators play a vital role in creating safe, inclusive, and effective learning environments, guiding instructional excellence, and fostering strong partnerships with the community. By recognizing this week, we honor the commitment, professionalism, and vision of school administrators whose leadership is essential to the success of our schools and the achievement of all students. I'm not sure how I ended up assigned with most of these, but I just realized that. I do want to take a moment to also introduce Ruby Bridges. On November 14th, 1960, 6-year-old Ruby Bridges made history as the first Black student to integrate an elementary school in the South, courageously walking to William Franz Elementary School in New Orleans amidst intense opposition. Her bravery became a powerful symbol of the civil rights movement and a reminder of the importance of equity and access in education. Recognizing November 14th, 2025 as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day honors her legacy, celebrates the progress made towards inclusive schools, and reaffirms our ongoing commitment to ensuring that all students feel safe, supported, and welcomed in their educational journey. I think right now that is the very forefront of how we need to move forward. It's just remembering the impact and the need for all students to be included. Next, thank you, Dr. Castro. We have the approval of our resolution proclaiming October as Filipino American History Month.
Thank you, Superintendent August, President McNally, members of the board, student board members, members of the community, student staff of Santa Rosa City Schools. Filipino American History Month began in 1992, done in recognition of the contribution, culture, and heritage that Filipino Americans brought to the United States from the Philippines when they arrived in October of 1587. California is home to over half of the Filipino population in the United States of America, and the location of the historic Filipino communities such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, Stockton, Vallejo, Delano, San Diego, and Salinas, among others. Tonight's requested action is that the board consider approval of Resolution 2526-16, recognizing October as Filipino American History Month in Santa Rosa City Schools.
And next we have Coaches Appreciation Month.
Thank you. The National Federation of State High School Associations created National High School Activities Week in 1980 to increase public awareness of the values and need of interscholastic activity programs. Since its initial launch, the campaign has expired to use the entire month of October to recognize the importance of interscholastic activity programs. Santa Rosa City Schools would like to join organizations such as NFHS, the CIF, and Positive Coaching Alliance in honoring the coaches who serve our community. Tonight's requested action is that the board consider the approval of Resolution 2526-18, recognizing October as Coaches Appreciation Month.
Thank you. And if we can ask Executive Director John Fisher to join us for recognizing the week of the school psychologist.
Thank you, Superintendent August, members of the board. Recognizing our school psychologists in Santa Rosa City Schools wear many hats in service of our students, families, and staff, including as assessors, helping determine whether a student is eligible or continues to be eligible for special education services, mental health service providers, supporting students' social emotional well-being through direct services, behaviorists, writing and supporting the implementation of behavior intervention plans, district representatives serving as administrators at IEP meetings, and collaborators, consulting with general education teachers and student study teams to ensure students receive the appropriate supports. In addition to these many roles, our school psychologists are at the forefront of equity work in Santa Rosa City Schools. They're helping to lead efforts to address the disproportional identification of English language learners in special education by ensuring assessments are culturally and linguistically appropriate for dually identified learners. We are proud to honor the dedication, expertise, and compassion of our school psychologists who embody the mission of ensuring every student in Santa Rosa City Schools has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Caston for the resolution in recognition of Italian Heritage Month.
Yeah, it's my honor to introduce for the first time a resolution recognizing Italian Heritage Month, which is celebrated in October throughout the United States. Not only does the resolution recognize the significant impact of Italian immigrants to the country, but also specifically to Santa Rosa, where they started coming, and we started coming in 1885. Specifically, it also highlights the contribution in the West Side and West Third districts of Santa Rosa, the development of many of the stone workers that did the buildings down Railroad Square were Italian immigrants that first came. So it's my honor to introduce this resolution, recognize it, and encourage folks to include it in their curriculum.
Our recommendation this evening is to approve all of the resolutions with the understanding that as staff, by approving the resolutions early in the year, that we plan for these in the upcoming months in our curriculum and activities.
So I make a motion to approve resolutions A through K and put in that motion that we take it upon ourselves the responsibility to identify these resolutions when the month comes aware. So we have the opportunity to not only properly recognize that resolution during its month, but to share with the community what we are doing as a district to honor and celebrate the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Delatorre, second by Trustee Caston. Roll call vote.
Student Board Member Carrillo.
Aye.
Student Board Member Oliveira.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Caston.
Aye.
Trustee Jenkins. Aye. Trustee Kirby.
Aye.
President McNally.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, our next item is an action item, approval of a tentative agreement between Santa Rosa City Schools and Teamsters Local 665. Dr. Vicki Zanz is here to speak.
Thank you. As you might recall, about 15 months ago or so, we started the process of negotiating with the Teamsters Union to represent our head custodians. We were able to come to a tentative agreement, and that tentative agreement was ratified by the Teamsters members on August 7th. So we are asking for the board's approval to, or for the board to approve the tentative agreement with the Teamsters. This is a one-year contract. It is the initial contract, and we will start working late in the fall for next year's contract.
Trustee Caston?
I'd like to move approval of a tentative agreement between Santa Rosa City Schools and Teamsters Local 665 for successor contract 2025-2026.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Trustee Caston, seconded by Trustee Jenkins. Roll call vote.
Student Board Member Carrillo.
Aye.
Student Board Member Olivera.
Aye.
Trustee Caston.
Aye.
Trustee Jenkins.
Aye.
Trustee Kirby.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
President McNally.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have another action item, approval of a provisional internship permit application. Dr. Zanz?
Okay, thank you. I'm here to ask for approval of a provisional intern permit for Kelsey Fatui to serve as a special education teacher at Abraham Lincoln Elementary. What is exciting about this particular request is that this is one of our classified employees who is now chosen to move into the ranks of the teachers. And so we're really hoping to support her and hoping to approve her intern program.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Trustee De La Torre, seconded by Trustee Caston. Roll call vote.
Student Board Member Carrillo.
Aye.
Student Board Member Olivera.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Caston.
Aye.
Trustee Jenkins.
Aye.
Trustee Kirby.
Aye.
President McNally.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, next we have item G4, discussion and possible action, first read and possible waive of second read of board policies 4119.24, 4119.21, and 1114. I do have some public comment on this one. Is there a presentation to do, or should we go straight to public comment?
I think it may be helpful for us to say that our recommendation is for a first reading tonight and that we would not ask for the waiver of a second read and adoption.
All right. Shall I take the public comment? All right. So again, you'll have 3 minutes each. First is Megan Covey, followed by Brittany Affronti.
Good afternoon. Oh my God, that's how tired I am. Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you to Caston, Jenkins, and Superintendent August for visiting the middle schoolers at Monty. I encourage all board members to visit the sites that you have dramatically changed. We would like to see you and receive the support that you said you would give us. Also, thank you to Rick and all of the movers who made this summer possible. 3 years ago, when my mother was dying, I told all of my classes what was happening. I explained that if my phone rang in the middle of a lesson, I might have to drop everything and drive to UCSF. I was honest with them because I wanted them to understand why I seemed so distracted and sad. All those tiny 7th graders showed me more empathy and compassion than I could have ever imagined. When that call finally did come in the middle of my workday, my students surrounded me. They gathered my things, went to the office to find someone to cover my classes, and sent me on my way with love. In the weeks that followed, families sent food to support me and my daughter. Students wrote condolence cards, and they opened up about losing their own loved ones. We bonded, we grieved together, and we grew stronger as a classroom community. Under the broad and vague wording in the proposed policy, none of that would have been possible. Sharing my reality with my students, something as human as grief, could be seen as disclosing personal matters. Yet those moments are the heart of teaching. They're how we show our students that trust and compassion are real, vulnerability is okay, and that school can be a safe place to bring their whole selves. I want to be clear. I believe in the protections that we need for our students. We really do need them. But we also need to reconsider the wording of these policies so they don't prevent healthy communications and connections between teachers and students. Safety and trust can and must go hand in hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Brittany Affronti.
I'm deeply concerned about the proposed revisions to this board policy. While I fully support the goal of protecting student safety, the current language is so broad that it risks creating fear among teachers about forming authentic relationships with students. Researcher Zaretta Hammond in Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain makes it clear that trust is the on-ramp to learning. Students will not take risks, push themselves, or engage deeply unless they believe their teachers are human, caring, and authentic. She explains that teachers build this trust by sharing appropriate personal experiences, showing genuine concern for students' lives, and connecting around common interests. These are not extras. They are the foundation of equity and engagement. The problem is that this policy, as written, forbids or discourages many of those very practices. If teachers are left wondering, if I tell a student how I struggled as a teenager, does that become a violation? Or is it an opportunity to help them see that setbacks are normal and growth is possible? If I share with a student that I too have ADHD and the strategies I've learned to be successful, is that support or is that suddenly against policy? They will pull back. That fear creates a chilling effect, leading to distance instead of connection, and our students lose. That's why I'm urging you to adopt revisions that protect students while also affirming authentic teacher-student relationships. Specifically, revise the section on disclosing personal matters to say, employees shall avoid sharing intimate or inappropriate details of their personal lives. However, sharing appropriate personal experiences related to learning, growth, or resilience is encouraged when it serves an educational or relational purpose. Revise the section on socializing outside of school to say, employees shall not engage in exclusive or secretive relationships with students outside of school. However, participation in community events or public settings where students and families are present is recognized as a positive way to build trust and connection. Revise the section on banning personal attention and nicknames to say, employees should avoid favoritism or gifts that create the appearance of special treatment. However, finding shared interests and affirming students in culturally responsive ways is an important trust-building practice and is permitted when professional boundaries are maintained. Revise the section on confiding to say, employees shall not take on the role of counselor beyond their training. However, showing appropriate concern for students' well-being, acknowledging life events, and connecting students with support resources is encouraged. And add, nothing in this policy shall be interpreted to prohibit culturally responsive practices, trust-building strategies, or authentic teacher-student connections that are developmentally appropriate, professional, and designed to support student learning. This approach maintains safeguards while ensuring teachers can continue the trust building that Hammonds and others identify as essential to student success. Please do not pass this policy without making these revisions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to the board for questions or discussion. Trustee Delatorre.
So I agree wholeheartedly with updating policy and providing protection for our students. That being said, when I read through these specific revisions and additions, it seems a little too restrictive to where we are taking away the ability to build relationships with our students. Those relationships are trust-building bonds that are necessary for them to know they are accepted, they are seen, they are heard, they belong, and that through trials and tribulations, they can accomplish more than what they see in front of them. So what I propose is that this is worked on with our labor groups to find language deemed appropriate, allowing teachers to be teachers. The strict language here will not keep the bad people from doing bad. It keeps the good people from having an opportunity to do great. So I'd like there to be further work on this proposal and a revision that teachers are a part of so we can come to a common understanding. As a board, it's incumbent upon us to prepare policy that protects everyone, especially our students. but we cannot protect by restricting our teachers from making a connection to the students we expect them to teach.
Trustee Jenkins?
I agree with, so used to calling people by their first names. Trustee De La Torre. I agree with everything that he's saying. And I have notes on each of them that I wrote down, specifically for, well, they're pretty general. I agree that we need to be partnering with the staff. I feel like the wording of these is a little bit us versus them, and I think that's the wrong message. I also want to remind kind of everyone that, especially with the littles, sometimes the teacher has more time with that student than their parents do. So to not let that kid confide in a safe adult is a big issue for me. I also feel like some of these policies were touching in other policies that may have come up last week. And so I want to make sure that anything that we're implementing is not super repetitive, so people can know what they're referencing and not have them kind of one policy and then having it linked to another policy. It just gets muddy. And so if we could be just as clear as possible with some of these, specifically on 419.21 with the professional standards, I had an issue with the language of during work hours. I know that was in bold, so it sounds like that's something that we added. I think as somebody who works with students, we should try to do the things most of the time. And then for the 0.24, I had questions about it being kind of necessary because a lot of it is touched in different policies. I understand that we need to hold people accountable. And I want to make sure that we are supporting our teachers instead of tying their hands behind their backs. I want to make sure that the teachers have the tools that they need. Teachers and staff and everyone who's in our district have the tools that they need to support the students in their care. So if we could just change the language so that it's more partnering than not. And I did have a question about the 1114, the social media one. I'm wondering if, because it was saying district sponsored, does that include any of the classroom ones that are like ASB, for instance? Is that district sponsored, as well as how does that impact parent groups that have social media sites? Are they kind of under the same umbrella? Things of that sort.
Trustee Kirby?
Well, just a point of information, I guess, for both of you. Are you broadly talking about all three of these policies together, or is there a specific, I mean, should we be breaking these out individually and discussing them? I just want to make sure, is there any of these three that we feel can be passed, or is there? Sure, go ahead.
Couple of things. One, as a reminder that these board policies come to us through CSBA, so that there's a lot of legal pieces that go into it. And policies are the what, and then we get to create the administrative regulations that talk about the how. And so policies are typically they don't have as much meat to them. So it may be that when this comes back to you, it may be with an accompanying AR that maybe provides, that's our opportunity to really customize it, make it more ours, as compared to the language that's in a board policy. When we end up in a situation where we are defending, when we're in a situation of what has or hasn't happened, it is important that we have very strong policy and training that go together. So just want to, there is a reasoning behind the way that things are linked in there. It's not something that we necessarily want to link to all of them. It has to do with the way that it's created within CSBA, and the more modifications we make, it can weaken sometimes some of the references. So just a clarification.
Just to ask a clarifying question on that, with 0.24, that looked like it was all bold. So that's our own policy, right?
No, it is just new to us because it had not, it has existed in CSBA policy in their sample policy book as a recommendation for a long time. We just had never adopted it.
So to answer Director Kirby's question, I'm stating all three need to go back and get revisions, and we work with our teachers for clarification. Because if I were to go through all three of these policies, I've coached youth sports for 25 years in Santa Rosa and Sonoma County. I coached with this district for 7 years. I would not have been able to coach the way I coach and make a connection with student athletes through adversity if these policies went into effect. I would not have been able to walk the Pride Parade with our students and families with my wife if these board policies were in place. So that's why I'm asking that all three get gone through with our labor groups so we can find wording that's appropriate. Rules need to be set, and then implementation of those rules so they can be followed is where we're really lacking. And so we just need some clarification and revision, partnering to have the proper language so that we can say this is our expectations, and then implementation to make sure those are followed through.
Trustee Caston?
Yeah, I agree. And I honestly think we need to move to a place where if we're not having our board policies come up in a committee or some other public forum prior to that, we always do a first reading and second reading, just so we treat this as a normal process, because it's the first time many of us are seeing these. I want to emphasize that this is the CSBA language. It's what's recommended to us to adopt based on that legal guidance and that process. But that also gives us the opportunity to customize it for what we feel is best for the district. Having said that, though, I don't want to lose track of what this policy is for, because this policy isn't suggested as a policy for us to adopt because we want to restrict effective teaching or coaching. There are exceptions for participating in community events that are done for legitimate education purposes. And there's some other elements in here. We need to get in there and put in a couple of changes. But what we're talking about here is protecting our students from behaviors like grooming and child exploitation and things that unfortunately do happen in this district. Just this last year, and we can't talk about a lot of that stuff because we have to handle it in closed sessions, but just this last year publicly, I had to attend a meeting of all the parents at CCLA the morning after a teacher was removed for doing things here that were very, very bad and should never be happening to one of our
Trustee
students.
Caston?
It's all public in the paper on this. There's a public meeting I attended with the VPP, Violence Prevention Partnership, and all of that. So we can't talk about what's not in the paper, but read the paper and understand that these policies need to have a hard line so that we can protect our students.
Trustee Jenkins?
I just wanted to clarify because I'm reading the attachment on updating board policies, and it says that because the 2-4 is all bold, that means that it was not part of CSBA.
My apologies, we'll correct the formatting on that for you.
Okay, so that one is
It is all brand new.
Really?
To us, but it is completely CSBA language.
That is wild. It's just not very, like, the wording is not nice. Like, it's just not helpful to people that are relying on us to lead them. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that there's a difference between board policy and implementation of board policy. And so that's where the board policy is the what and the administrative regulation is the how. And board policy is set by the board. It is not something that we typically negotiate. We're advised against negotiating policy because that is the board's prerogative. And as administrators, we do have to come up with our regulations of how that's implemented based on your guidance. So that's where we have that room to make those adjustments and be appropriate in the way that the guidance is provided. So there are changes. Again, I understand making rules and also keeping the humanity. I think we hear loud and clear that that's what it sounds like we're asking for, that our board is asking from us.
That totally makes sense. I 100% read it as it was our policy because of the information that I had. And so that is why it was extremely surprising. But then one of them had some repetitive information. 21 has 9 and 10, I think, are repeated, and 11 and 12, or something along those lines, just for editing issues.
Yeah, we'll fix that. I don't know how that happened.
All right, I have a few thoughts I'd like to share. As a teacher, overall, I think this is a good policy, and we just need to make a few adjustments to wording. Relationship building is so important, but so is protecting our students. I agree that we need some adjustments to, on point 24, numbers 12 and 13. So encouraging students to confide their personal or family problems and or relationships. I mean, first of all, mandatory reporting. I mean, we never want to push students, but we are trained to ask what's going on. So I think the policy needs to make room for that. Also, we check in on our kids. If we see a student is not their usual self, we ask them what's going on. So that one needs some space in there. And then number 13, disclosing personal, family, or other private matters. I think I liked the word someone added of inappropriate, intimate or inappropriate personal matters. Also, I think we shouldn't be confiding things in our students that place an emotional burden onto them, that make the student concerned for the teacher. I think there's a way to share in a way to connect without like placing our own burden onto them. I don't know how you put that in policy. And I think with the aspect of grooming, which is not pretty to talk about, I do think it's important that we not lead students to believe that we have like a special personal relationship with that one student. There's a difference between confiding something in the entire class versus having one student who you tell your secrets to. So I think this should just be a first read because I don't know how we fit that all in. And then I wanted to ask a question to Trustee Delatorre. What aspect of the policy do you think would prevent you from attending a pride parade?
So it says you cannot associate with students in outside community activities.
That's a community activity.
The way it's worded in here, that's going to scare a lot of teachers from participating and making that connection with those students. So that's why I said it needs to be reworked and reworded.
Okay.
I support rules and a hard line and expecting our staff to follow them. But there has to be a humanization to this policy so that we're not scaring teachers away from doing the great work that you do daily and that all of our teachers do and that I needed as a student. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
That wording would scare some teachers away from that opportunity.
I hear you. And then the one other note I had was, and I think it was Trustee Jenkins who brought it up, the line of during work hours on point 21. Could that be during work hours and when interacting with students? Employees shall engage in conduct that enhances the integrity of the district. I mean, if we run into a student at the grocery store, we don't want to, I don't know, do weird stuff in front of them. One way we could reword that. Other board member ideas, discussion? All right, so then we'll move on. course, Trustee Jenkins.
Before, what are we calling you, Mr. Gannon, Miss Patrick? What are we calling you? I'm so sorry.
Anything you,
Hey, you over there.
whatever is most comfortable. I did want to take the opportunity to clarify
Thank
a
you.
question that you asked. It's a good question around, when we talk about social media, what kind of accounts are we talking about? Typically, the parent association accounts are separate. Those are separate entities from the schools and the districts. That's why they're able to do different types of fundraising activities and other things. We would really be looking at, you mentioned ASB, those are absolutely school approved and district sponsored, as well as the school sites and district media.
What about sports? Sport teams? Is that parent? Is that after school? Where does sports fall in there?
That would also be district sponsored because our coaches are employees of the district.
Even if they volunteer, they're employees.
Yeah. And I did want to just make the point, I understand that I think board policies are based on law. And I think that can be read, especially by, me as a communications person, as, it in a less, it's not necessarily friendly language, but it really is. It's not only there to protect students, it's actually there to protect our employees as well. So I just want to keep that in mind. It's not us versus them. It's really, we're trying to protect everybody here.
Well, the social media aspect really needs to be strengthened in this policy and in our electronics board policy that we discussed at the first meeting. Because the reality is these are safeguards that are not readily available and were not needed 10 years ago. Today's day and age, a 6-year-old walks around with a computer in their pocket and has access to everything. So while in school hours with school events, we have to set policies to better safeguard our students from the dangers that are out there. So it's both policies that will need to be looked at to better word and safeguard that. And we're looking for some more humanization and wording so that we're not scaring our staff away from building those trusted relationships, but we're giving them the tools to know where the line is and what they're expected to follow.
Trustee Caston.
I just want to add to the conversation because I think it's important that we're very clear in what our expectations are at the policy level, and then where the subtlety and the techniques and the how to create those professional interactions that are also effective and create connection comes in is in not just the ARs, but more importantly, the trainings and the how-tos and the, professional education. We know when someone's doing right under these policies. We know when someone's doing wrong. We need the policy to be written so that when someone does wrong, the policy is there so that we can stop them. What we need is the trainings in order to help those that are doing right be able to do what's right and not accidentally fall afoul of something that we didn't intend. And so, I agree that it's harsh when you read it just the way that CSBA wrote it, but a part of that is also to provide that clarity so that when we are in a situation where someone is doing wrong, we can clearly articulate that it's wrong. And so I don't want our revisions to lose that. And so hopefully the AR and the trainings and perhaps what you present encompassing the plan around these can address some of that, the nature of that. But we need the policies to be able to be effective for the people, the very, very few people that aren't doing right by our students.
Trustee Kirby.
Well, just a quick side note. So just to clarify also about the athletics you were talking about. So because I ran one of the booster programs, that's a separate entity. They are nonprofit. They are attached to the school, kind of support the schools like the alumni associations, but those are not district sponsored. So they would not fall under that.
Yep, that's correct.
And for any predictions with those, we would have to look at how we present the school connected organization proposals.
All right, then we will move on to G5, discussion action, second read and consideration of board policies 3100, 3312, and AR 3311. Trustee Caston.
Yeah, so the Finance Committee, our first task and scope, starting in January when we were formed, was to essentially review the financial processes of the district. And we did an extensive review at each of our meetings at the beginning of the year, looking at everything from auditing to how budgets are developed. We looked into special funds. We looked into general fund. It was fairly comprehensive, and all of those reviews and discussions are available on YouTube as all of our meetings were recorded, so folks can go through that. As we went through that process, we identified some places where board policy and in one case, an administrative regulation, were able to address things that popped out as needing to be addressed. So one was setting an actual target for us to have reserve funds. That is something that's going to be future looking. It's something that we're going to be putting in place in order to be better prepared should a fiscal situation like the one that we're currently in and have been in for many years comes, in order to give us more tools to work with. Another one of those policies is around the use of one-time funds and prioritizing the replenishment of reserves. And then we also looked at contract approval levels, some of the things that have come up in consent calendar versus when we're looking at budgets, and how we deal with bids, and then also the timeline in which we approve or we go out for proposal on our auditor in order to make sure that we're making sure that our auditor is staying fresh and we're having an opportunity to make sure that the auditor is doing an adequate job of reviewing our books, since we as a board rely on the auditor's report to perform our fiduciary responsibilities. So this package of board policy amendments represents that work. There was a lot of other very important and useful things that came out of that work that are going to be contributing into changes into how we do things, but they didn't rise to the level of necessitating a policy change.
Any questions, discussion? Trustee Jenkins?
Yes, so in 3100, that's the budget one, right? I noticed the change from 3% to 10%, which I agree with. But my question around it, or maybe it was a comment. I was trying to find out where that was. My note to myself is the wording is such that it is a minimum of 10%, whereas prior it was no more than 10%. And I was just wondering kind of what the thought process was behind that.
So we're allowed as a board to have 10% of our funds essentially unallocated roll over from year to year during normal state Prop 98 years. So we cannot exceed 10% if the Prop 98 reserve is fully funded. In years where it's not, we can actually go above the 10% because the state's essentially saying that they haven't funded their reserve for our funds. So we can actually go above the 10% reserve threshold in the years where they don't fund the reserve that would be there to be our backstop. So that was the theory behind that. And I want to emphasize that this is not a this year goal, getting to 10%. Our first goal this year is to get to 3%. So we're required to be at 3%. We're not there today. So our first goal is to get to 3%. And then from there, Superintendent August and the Finance Committee and the entire board, we're going to have to work to build up to this 10% over many years. But getting to 10%, just as a comparison, so you look at the city tackling their budget crisis and our budget crisis, when you look at the numbers, aren't all that different. But the big difference is they had a 17% reserve. So they were able to use some of the reserve funds in order to step some of the reductions over several years. So by putting this in place, it doesn't solve today's problem, but we're putting in place the structure so that we don't get back here without some tools to be able to use.
That makes sense. Thank you. Did you have more to that?
The only thing I was going to add is there, because it calls out assigned and unassigned, there's a difference between the two. Assigned is that it's identified for a particular, you could assign it for a particular project, curriculum adoption, say
Kind
something
of like
like that.
restricted light?
It is restricted light because it is not, that does not require board action to assign other than a line item in the budget. There are committed balances that require board action that can exceed the 10% but that's very, very specific in the way that that's done.
Thank you. On the, I don't know, kind of the same situation as the last one. Do we want to go through these like one by one or? Because I have a question about the other two also.
They're all fairly interconnected, so if we
Okay.
can keep them as a package and do one vote, I think that's best.
Sure. They're just like clarifying things. They're not deal breakers or anything. I actually just had a comment about 33112 because the nutritious food part made me chuckle because when I was in high school, our lunches consisted of a big, huge chocolate chip cookie and a Coke. Or nacho chips with cheese on them, or an It's It, and that was like our lunch. So that part just made me laugh. So that's great. Times have changed. I'm not that old, I swear. And then for the AR 3311, kind of a clarifying question, because when I was reading it, and I understand, but I felt it necessary to say out loud, that it looks like for the most part, we go with whomever can do the work the least expensive. And I was wondering, like, I understand, I'm wondering if that's standard and is there a better way to do this in the future?
That is required by public contract code.
Oh my goodness.
There are instances when there can be additional factors, but not typically. So typically when we go through a building project, if we were just going to put out there, a concrete slab that was, and I'm just gonna make up a number, because for us, we do CUPCA, so our bid limits are different when it comes to construction. But if it were another district that doesn't use CUPCA, if they had something that exceeded $15,000 to pour a slab, they would have to put it out to bid and then take the lowest bidder.
So bringing up the reserve, Superintendent August, what does that really mean by changing that number to 3%, 10%? Because we have talked about this previously as a board. We've encouraged trying to move that 3% to 6%. But the reality of how huge a lift that is, we're talking about a huge amount of money. And we're talking about reserve. We're talking about the money in savings we don't touch. And we're trying to stay out of receivership right now. So we're not in savings mode, we're in cut mode. So to change that percentage on this by taking action, can you talk to me a little bit through about the timing and what that actually means?
Thank you. It's a really good question. And as Trustee Caston shared, or Vice President Caston, it's a multi-year goal. It is not something that we can implement in 1, 2, or even 3 years in our current situation. It is a point that we want to get to. And if we are only ever aiming for 3%, we will always be in a mode of cutting. What the governmental board recommends is actually 17%, but that is above what we can legally hold because of the size of our district and the current law. And the 17%, that covers roughly 2 months of expenditures typically. And so it's really about that cash flow piece, because remember right now we have we have a budget issue, but our bigger issue is the cash flow issue. And that's really, your reserve isn't money that you physically have cash in the bank, but it is a better indicator of your ability to be able to weather those times when you have that low cash flow that you can pull on that.
I'm all for setting a higher goal and holding ourselves as a board and district to a higher standard. I just don't want to set too high of a number, understanding it's unachievable with any normal amount of time. And then what happens when we're not hitting that number? Like, I don't want to put a big number out there that realistically we're not going to see within the term we're in right now. But I'm all for setting a high goal and holding ourselves to that standard. I just want to make sure we're not hurting ourselves by putting that in there, knowing we can't achieve it soon.
And that's where within the how we get there is in our fiscal stabilization plans and the identification of unrestricted one-time funds as the priority to build the reserve to make sure that we can weather those storms in the future.
I just want to add to what Superintendent August said about the benefits. It's also, if we build a 10%, so let's say in 5 years, 6 years, we built the 10%, it also results in an ongoing savings and additional funds that we're able to use that we're not spending on our financial borrowing and lending efforts. Because right now, when we have to go to the county treasury, when we have to do those mechanisms, we're spending money in order to not have money. So by getting to the 10%, we will actually have more funds available in those years out from there because we'll be able to use the reserve first for those short-term cash needs. And that's going to, that also provides stability and additional revenue in the future. But I think with financial goals, it's important for us to not think 1, 2, or 3 years when we're doing this. This is the type of thing that we need to be thinking 5, 6, 7 years out, because if we're not working to this 10% and we don't get there, then we'll never get there and we'll never have even tried. We'll always find something else to spend it on, but it's so expensive for us to not have reserves that we end up losing more at the end of the day, and our students end up losing more. I also, this was brought from committees, so under Roberts, I don't believe it needs a motion in a second, but if there's no more conversation, I would ask for a vote.
Do we really not need a motion in a second? Oh, okay, roll call vote.
Student Board Member Carrillo.
Aye.
Student Board Member Oliveira.
Aye.
Student Board Trustee Jenkins. Aye. Trustee Kirby.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Caston.
Aye.
President McNally.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, that's all of our action items tonight. We're on to, no,
Sorry,
no, we have discussion now, facilities update.
Okay. Good evening, Superintendent August, President McNally, and members of the board. Thank you. Sorry. I'm always a little slow on the computer thing. That's why I have her here. Welcome our 2 student board members. Now time for the fun part of the evening. We get to show pictures and fun stuff of campus improvements we've done. So no offense to board policy. This is our annual facilities report. I'd like to introduce a couple people we have up here with me. A lot of you know Kathy Gottfried. She's a project manager within our department, works for the school district. And our other two are from Van Pelt Construction. This is Brian Cameron and Felicia Silvera. They're both with Van Pelt Services. They help us with program management. Maybe not. See? There we go. All right, budget and programming. This is where Brian's comes up.
Yeah, so I'll make this quick. We pretty much spent out most of Measures I&L last fiscal year. We currently have about 420 million and some change for Measures C and G. And we're running pretty low on our developer and deferred maintenance funds. But we are expected to receive about $46 million in state funding.
And that's money we've already applied for. So we have more to apply for in the future as we go further along in this bond campaign. FMP updates. So with school consolidation, oh, sorry, you're correct. Facilities master plan updates. With school consolidation, we're going to update our facilities master plan at all school sites, especially those that were really affected by consolidation. So this is kind of the path we take when we meet with site stakeholder groups in developing that plan. Some of the things that came in our last one from a couple of years ago, the biggest initiatives that we took out from the stakeholder groups were new furniture, safety and security, classroom modernization, and campus improvements, a lot of which are started already. Okay, Project Recast moves. Before Felicia starts this section, I just want to say really quick to my team, my wonderful team of people who I don't know if the board fully appreciates the ask of this department of almost 400 moves this summer. And my team did a fantastic job. Not just the people up here who are wonderful, but my entire M&O team, Raphael, Alex, and the whole group, all the site staff, custodians, the warehouse team, IT, not only Kathy and Brian, but a special thanks to this young lady right here, Felicia, who did just an outstanding job. So I'll let her take it over on talking about our moves.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, just to echo that, I was across the sites all summer, and I have to really commend staff for everyone's willingness to help in any way possible and have a positive attitude throughout the summer. I think everyone saw the tsunami wave coming, and they handled it with amazing grace. So have to echo that. That being said, here are a summary of some of our costs this summer. There are a couple of little things that will keep trickling in. We're working on returning some library rental carts and just wrapping up the materials that we had used this summer. But overall, our contracted costs came in at actual costs for the summer. And we will be getting credits back as well for many of the boxes that we purchased. So Redwood had us purchase them at about, I think, $3 a box, and we'll be buying them back for $1. So at least that is some money that we're able to recover there as well.
Here are just a couple of fun slides from the move. That last slide is Felicia at the end of the summer there. Kathy, you want to take over some infrastructure?
So at Hidden Valley, as you all know, Hidden Valley and Proctor Terrace, we did the trenching studies at both of those. We're still pending those final reports, but the trenching went fairly well. We do have a little bit more to do at Hidden Valley, where the CGS has asked for some additional borings, and that's happening next Tuesday. The James Monroe drainage issue was very, very, very hectic, and it's not quite done. The contractor is, because they had to go out into Marlowe Road to connect to the storm drain. So they're repaving Marlowe Road tomorrow and Friday. They'll be finishing up in the drive aisle and parking lot over the next few weeks. And that will be done, which we hope really will help out the site a lot. At Piner, we redid the drainage that was impacted in the Building G courtyard. And we did the Piner High School tennis court fencing. We also did the exterior painting at these 3 sites, Lincoln, Elsie Allen, and Rankin Valley Middle School. All of that was very successful. I think that all of the schools look great, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback on those. Much cleaner looking. Elsie looks really different. And then continuing with our secondary gym floor refinishing, we finished Montgomery, Rankin Valley, and Santa Rosa High this summer.
And we're continuing our district-wide access control project. It's ongoing. It'll take a little over another year and a half to finish everything. So, but these are the first 4 sites we're going on. Santa Rosa is getting closer, as is Montgomery. And we're about halfway through Carrillo, and we're just about to get started at Rankin Valley soon. Some new buildings complete. Some of you have seen the wonderful Montgomery 2-story building, which is open for business, with another great job by Wright Contracting to get that building open in time for school, as well as our central receiving warehouse is now open. So we have a fun video here that's our time lapse that the contractor did for us. It's a 4.5-minute video. I'll try to skip a little bit too to help move it along, but it's kind of a fun thing to see the building kind of get built quickly from nothing. You can see obviously the demo of the old portables out of the way and the parking lot and getting ready to pour concrete slab. I'll skip through a little bit of this here because it's hard to believe 16 months can be condensed into less than 5 minutes. And steel started to get stood. Some walls are starting to get built there. The site was great on the amount of construction and noise that was going on throughout this whole process, and just the staff was great out there to be very understanding and so happy that this was going on. Roof's on, they're starting to get siding and they're getting ready for glass, which is, those of you that have seen it, has a ton of glass on this building, a lot of natural light in there for student. Some of the stucco's going on, a lot of the glass is in. Trying to fast forward a little bit. It's much better when the scaffolding comes down. It'll kind of hid the building for quite some time. There you go. Now you can start to see the building and a lot of the parking lot work starting to get done in front of the building as we're getting closer to summer here, trying to get ready for school. I wish they had this camera on the other side that had more of the greenery we had and things. This is kind of the boring parking lot side, but you know, there you go. And I think it shows, yeah, there's teachers starting to show up and stuff as we're getting ready for school. So it's some great pictures in here of this new building, and we look forward to a ribbon cutting coming up on the 19th of September. We hope y'all can be there. Pictures of some of the new furniture in the classrooms, the new building from the outside, as well as some of the fun student areas in front of the building. Here is the central receiving warehouse. This is at the back of the old district office. So this is what the warehouse, it will house warehouse, IT, and duplicating services. What we have in progress for upcoming year, some of the things we have plenty. The district office and ed center, the kind of the first phase is complete with the warehouse project, and now we're going to start that second phase. We're in the middle of finishing design and getting it submitted to the state so we can get that started. We have TK buildings going up at the new Santa Rosa French American campus, the old Santa Rosa Middle campus. That's 6 classrooms. We have 6 classrooms of TK going up at James Monroe. Helen Lehman has 6 classrooms as well for TKK. And Pioneer High School's new 2-story building is, I think the groundbreaking is the 24th of September. So that's coming up as well. So that'll get started here in October. Other things we have planned coming up for the next summer and beyond is the LC Allen roof, the DeSoto Hall modernization for 7th and 8th. The Pioneer High School theater lighting upgrades are happening now. Santa Rosa High School fence and drive aisle is just about to start up. The district-wide fencing projects are kind of an ongoing throughout the year, as is electronic access and classroom modernization. So we want to thank you for taking the time. We'll open it up for questions or comments.
So Eric, I noticed at the end there, it said Santa Rosa High fencing is ongoing. Does that mean there will be no fencing this year?
Sorry, the drive aisle project, which is for Santa Rosa High, includes the fencing, is starting in October. So it's going, it'll be complete before winter break, we pray.
Okay. Another thing is we heard a lot about spacing issues and people needing more spacing. It's something we always hear, especially as the moves. Now that the moves have happened, we do have students in classrooms, teachers using spaces. Do we have access to any portables? Do we need them? Can we use them? Or is that still not a thing?
Yes, we have owned portables at sites like Brook Hill that are ours that we can relocate to campuses that might need them, but we still have to go through the DSA process. So we have to, hire an architect, go through the process, submit to DSA, and get that approved before we can move them or set them up on campus.
So even for the moves, we have to go through DSA?
Yeah.
And what's the timeline on something like that?
We go quick. We might be able to get it done this summer, yeah.
Do we have any other options for space that's needed now?
Not really. I mean, I'll let Lisa maybe speak to that, but the portable move will be the fastest if we had to get space quickly, would be that way.
So we do have this, we have a group between facilities and ed services coming to speak with cabinet so that we can be kind of troubleshooting and looking to the future with how we're going to address the issues for next year.
Okay, because we are under assumption those were not going to be issues this year, and they are. So that's kind of what I'm going for here.
So we do have moves that will still need to happen in specific schools, and we will be addressing, there will be staff moves and some changes that need to happen.
Thank you.
Student board member?
I do have one question when it comes to the amount of the cost for the district-wide exterior painting. Does the total cost for the LC Allen, the contrasted cost or the actual cost reflect also not only with the outside of the building, but also the insides of them? Like, for example, the lockers that are still not painted yet, is the cost included with that, or will we be paying more for those?
Are you talking, I'm sorry, the painting cost you're asking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual cost. You want to answer that, Kathy, really quick?
Yeah, actually, the lockers, painting of the lockers was not included in the scope of work for the exterior painting project. And I know that Principal Cunningham is working with volunteer groups to get those painted. We do have paint, extra paint that they have access to, and he will be working to get that done.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Caston?
It was specifically brought up for the ESN classrooms in our public comment that they don't all have access to an individual bathroom. Is that a part of the facilities plan moving forward for transitions?
The ESN classes having bathrooms?
Yeah, in our public comments earlier this evening, there was a comment made that there's currently ESN classrooms that are having to share bathrooms, and it's not the ideal situation, and they're under the impression that it's temporary, but now they're starting to think it's permanent. Is there an update on that, or is that something that we can just have addressed and after the meeting.
I think that's something we can address. That's not something that's been brought to my immediate attention.
Okay.
Yeah, and the site, layout of where classes go is not up to us.
Okay. I just want to we should follow up then on that item. I didn't see the CCLA TK building on here. I know it's in the facilities master plan. Is that also on the future projects?
It is. I know that there's some upcoming potential with CCLA as far as changes. So we're kind of waiting for that facility master plan meetings with that stakeholder group to really kind of finalize that.
Right. And then the trenching studies, I'm starting to hear from folks that are worried. And is there a date that we can tell people when they'll be out of peer review and back, and they'll know what's happening with their campuses?
Yeah, I think I talked with Superintendent August about bringing something to the reports are due to us into mid-September-ish to try to see if we wanted to do a board discussion item at the last September meeting or first October meeting, depending how it fit.
Right. I think at this point, them just knowing a date that they'll be done is the important thing. So early October, I think sounds good. And then on the Monroe, you said it's been kind of a challenge with everything that's been happening at Monroe. Is everything getting worked out with the trenching and moving to the new buildings?
At Monroe.
Yeah.
So the current project was just to address a drainage issue.
Right.
And it went out into the street. As far as doing additional for the new buildings, that'll be later once we start construction on the TKs.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
My understanding is that there's two issues out there, right? There was the access into the parking and just the general traffic circulation that's currently been the problem. And so is that resolved?
It's mostly resolved, yes.
Okay,
We had,
mostly.
the contractor had issues getting their encroachment permit from the city. That got delayed by about 3+ weeks. And that really threw kind of a wrench into what was already a really compressed schedule for them to have to trench all the way down that drive aisle and the parking lot and the street. And the city did add a couple of additional requirements for them that also extended that timeline.
Okay. And the future building, and we'll get into that with the master plan in future meetings.
That'll be
But
later.
I was mostly concerned about the current traffic
Yeah.
considerations. I think that is all my questions for right now. Thank you.
Trustee Kirby?
All right. First, I saw you had mentioned that there will be some community engagement meetings in the fall. Do we have dates for that yet? Or?
No, I'm actually working with QKA, who's helping us do the master plan on that now. So we'll be, getting that out to the public shortly so that we can really get some good stakeholder involvement.
Get that to Patrick also, so he can get that out there.
For sure.
Okay. All right, public comments that came up about the issues with ArcQuest storage. Is there any solutions possible for that?
Yeah, I've worked with the VP over there who's in charge of facilities, Michael. We walked a little bit and talked about that. There is some space. They just have to kind of, it's more of a site figuring it out thing. They have some room. It's just about them kind of making that happen. So it's a better question for the administrative staff over at Santa Rosa High.
Okay. An issue that's been coming up a lot now that we're kind of consolidated and the junior, senior campuses are combined is the lack of middle school student lockers. Is there, do we have money for that? Is there a project in place for that? Are we doing anything about that?
Yeah, this came up in the empowerment meetings back in last year, and lockers was brought up. And I've asked multitudes of time what lockers are needed because we would be glad to move them from Santa Rosa Middle to Santa Rosa High or from Slater to Montgomery. And I was told no, they did not need them. So I had to go off that hill.
That was no from the administrators?
Both, yeah, the administrative teams, right? They know how many students are coming and what their needs are.
I believe that came from out of the Empower team meetings as far as what the decisions were. And I think there were times where as now we see what reality is, there may be things that we need to look at as potential revisit or not. And so I think those are conversations that need to be had as we go through this. And I want to clarify that as spaces are identified by administration, then we support in making those happen as far as the storage and things like that.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. Yeah, if we
we're
could
there to
relook
support.
at the locker issues at the new combined campuses, I think that'd be helpful just to take a pulse and see if that mood has changed.
We
I
have a
guess.
walk at Montgomery tomorrow, so I'll be talking with the principal.
There we go.
Okay.
Also along those same lines, now on the combined campuses, I've heard a little concern about covered outdoor eating spaces lunchtime with the new junior
Yeah.
high school.
Covered outdoor eating is kind of a problem across most campuses. And that was identified in the master plan coincidentally. It's just wasn't as high of a priority as some of the other things we're starting to do. And then of course with consolidation, it kind of shifted a little priorities, but I think this will still come out and flush out in our new master planning process to keep that up on the to-do list.
Okay, I would also add to that, probably need to look at whether or not to add gym space. Is that covered under our bond measure? Is it only classrooms or would gyms fall
No,
under that as well?
Any facilities, yeah. Gyms are not cheap, but yes.
I
they
know they're
can be
not
built.
cheap, but we may
And they
need
take up a
them.
lot of room.
Yeah, that is true. But it's obviously something we need to look at the facilities master plan also, and probably sooner than later.
Yeah, this will have to flesh out in this fall.
Let's see. I guess that's about all I got. Thanks.
Yep.
So specific to that gym question, can we really be proactive and start looking and asking questions now? Because if we no longer have Santa Rosa Middle to use as a space with the Santa Rosa French American Charter moving there next year, we need to start asking questions and figuring stuff out now on what we're going to do with those athletes and physical education programs if we don't have the space.
So yes, I think that's a collaborative effort that starts also with our athletic directors. And I know that there have been that is on the list with Ryan Thompson leading the conversations with our athletic directors. And also we will need to be working with our administrators, coaches, and facilities.
Yeah, there's been ongoing conversations around that to start the school year, for sure.
Just want to be as proactive as possible because we're a little ahead of it finally. We've got some time, but next year will be here before we know it, as we're all aware. And the sooner we can start asking questions, the better.
Definitely.
Trustee Jenkins?
So my appreciation didn't come from the board weekly. It came from me reading this. I read a lot of stuff the weekend prior to a board meeting. So thank you guys. I had a couple points, questions, specifically around the trenching for the two schools, Hidden Valley and Proctor Terrace, maybe. When we were talking consolidations, I recall the number being 500,000 and getting it at 320 that's a significant difference, which is great. So great, thank you. As well as it looked like most of the things came under contracted numbers, which is also awesome. So thank you guys for all the work on that. Couple points that may help with public interaction and just kind of streamlining the process. I remember there's some form that folks at the sites can fill out to make sure that things are getting addressed. Is that?
You're talking about around the moves and that stuff we handed out at the beginning of the year. We had a great communication with staff to make
Yeah,
sure
is that still happening? Is that still the best point of communication, like with the lockers and things that are coming up for staff and sites, the best way to communicate with you guys?
A lot of that can probably be relayed through the site admin and work through our department as well. And they bring us in to collaborate on that.
Okay,
But
so
not just
site
putting in
admin.
like a ticket for that or something.
Yeah. That makes sense. And then also just kind of an ask, I guess, with since we have the annual report and we know that meetings are coming up in the fall and master plan planning, hoping that we can, once we have those dates, that not only will they be publicized, but then also added to the calendar that's on the district website. I'm hoping that that calendar will be used more often so people can just look at the website and see what's coming up instead of scrolling through all the Parent Square stuff. So looking forward to that getting underway.
Yeah, we hope for really good participation. Some schools are have heavy participation and some not so much. So the better, we'd love to hear from the stakeholders direct.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, team.
Thank you.
I lost my agenda. What do we have? Organizational chart. Superintendent August.
All right, we can go ahead and it'll take me just a second to get in here and share that. My apologies. There are a few items attached. One is obviously the organizational chart from the link from last year's. Then there's our updated organizational chart that just really gives an overview of, remembering this was changed last year as far as the structure to show students at the top and, reflecting that we are all responsive and supportive there. And so just, we didn't make any changes to that. We did bring this as an information item rather than an action item, because as you make personnel action decisions or approve positions, that really is your action to approve our organization. And so we didn't feel that it was appropriate to be bringing this separately as an action item as it is updated throughout the year as positions are or are not filled. There are different things that happen with that. Sorry, let me go ahead and share my screen. I just realized I was not.
Just had one quick comment on this first organizational chart. We should probably add the second student board member. Since we have each
Or
of
at
the-
least add an S,
Or
student
add
board
an S.
members.
Yes. Thank you.
Either way.
Thank you. Okay. Our cabinet, we have not changed any positions there, and but we do have some changes in the people who are holding some of those roles. We are happy to welcome Patrick Gannon as our Public Information Officer and Luz Cazares as our interim CBO. Same thing, business services in the leadership structure. There were not any changes. There were changes within the departments themselves. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through each of these, but each of those departments within business services is pulled out. And we did do an attachment that gives an overview of the changes at the district office level. One thing that we are looking at and plan to bring forward as information later is a comparison of what we had several years ago. So we can actually see the difference between, say, pre-COVID to now, what did staffing look like? And those are pieces that we will continue to look at and revise. A reminder with child nutrition services, that is actually a completely self-supporting program that is outside of our general fund. And so often when we bring positions forward or have changes there, it is made with less scrutiny, as in it isn't impacting. We are not giving up something else within the general fund when we are making a change there. Within business services, within the management there was one position that was reduced from last year to this year. And overall, I won't be able to recall off the top of my head. I don't know that the board wants me to scroll through all of the items on here. Really, I would say it's more around, are there questions around the changes? Would you like me to share the overview document?
Trustee Caston?
If you could just go to education services and, because that's where we had the most reductions from unrestricted and additions from restricted, and kind of show how the new positions are there.
On the visual or on the list?
The visual slides, I think 13 and 14.
Sorry, I have to look over here on this because on my screen it's blocked here. So this one can be a little confusing looking at,
That's kind of why I wanted you to walk me through it. Looks like a spider web.
and it may actually be a little bit easier if I have Dr. Castro come down and share some information, some more detailed information on this. But essentially there was a restructuring to make sure that we are operating with the most efficiency and hitting areas that are of particularly in need of support with short-term funds that we have.
Sure. So what are the questions?
I guess my initial question is just, can you, the change between last year to this year, this is one of the slides that has the most significant change. So can you talk about the positions that were eliminated and then the positions that were added, and how that works into your department?
Okay, so the positions that were eliminated were the elementary director and the secondary director, and then the coordinator of state and federal programs, which had been actually demoted from a director position originally. Right in the middle there, if you count down from my position down, Sarah Samuel below him, where it says Lindsay Nash, that position combined the role of the previous multilingual coordinator with the eliminated position of the state and federal programs coordinator / director into that position. So those two positions were collapsed into that one. Upwards a little bit to the left there, the coordinator of PL would be considered a new position on restricted resources. And then the other one.
Or with restricted resources, I know it sounded like it was on restricted resources, just want to clarify.
On restricted resources, and then trying to find, over to the right, Dr. Michael Reimer then assumed the rest of the responsibilities of the state and federal programs director, because basically the state and federal programs department is a combination of state and federal programs, migrant ed, and a number of different work streams. So that basically that whole department was taken by Dr. Michael Reimer and Lindsay Nash, and parts of it under under Samuel Martinez. So the new position, to answer your question, would be the coordinator of PL on restricted resources, and the director of school innovation, engagement, and strategic outreach, which is the position that I believe was a conception of the board actually to help stand up the junior seniors. And that is funded partially on LCAP funds, but mostly on the A through G grant. Let me see if there's anything else on there. I don't see anything else. No. Let me look. No.
I think something to notate on here is that, as mentioned, some of these positions are temporary.
And I think another important thing is that that I think is a really big and important move that we made a shift last year is the reconsideration of using base funds for base activities and shifting a lot of this, really thinking hard and shifting a lot of this work as much as possible to restricted resources, which is the most efficient, best way to use these resources, to be able to release unrestricted funds to be used in the best way possible. And I think the most prudent way possible for a district that's going through the situation that we're going through, so that you can make decisions very quickly. If you don't want to renew a position, it doesn't affect the classroom and that position in the central office, no matter how much it's needed. And although I'm smiling here, it frustrates me that we're an academic institution and always everybody's looking at educational services to make the cuts. But behind all of these people is all of the great work that NINDO supports the teachers. But I understand at a moment's notice when we have to make cuts, this is some of the places you have to make them. And so we're basically set up to, at a moment's notice, because they're unrestricted resources, these positions can be cut without affecting the classroom. And we know that all of the unrestricted resources have been pushed back to places where they can be used more effectively, or more closer to the classroom, rather. So.
And I want to clarify, by on a moment's notice, that does not mean in the current year. What that means is that they are flown as temporary positions. They are temporary because of the restricted, and we may not have ongoing funding in particular areas, or it could be repurposed.
Thank you for,
depending on need.
I'm not making it sound very decorous there, but yeah, from on a year-to-year basis, that's what I mean.
I appreciate the overview. Thank you.
Of course. I think the next slides just break down further some of the other, how this looks on a more detailed basis. These other individuals are they are funded, well, they exist sub-funds, grants to them. So this is nothing, none of these are new, and some of them are unfilled.
Trustee Jenkins?
Just a bit of feedback on this. I think it would be helpful to add like restricted in some of these to kind of further drive that home as
okay.
well. It's just a nice visual,
Like maybe a little asterisk or something.
Yeah. And then I know you'd mentioned getting numbers for like pre-COVID. And I'm also wondering, because of the financial strain that the district's on, I think it would be beneficial to also see like just what we had last year, and like the reductions that we're making, or that were made, because, we're not out of it. So having it clear about like where we were, what we did, and then if more has to happen in the future, what kind of that looks like. And so we can kind of see the trend and really show the community what we're doing, really visually. The other piece that would be really beneficial, I appreciate getting the org charts, especially as they were kind of requested last week. So having them really quick is really helpful. I think something that would also be beneficial is having it very clear as like chain of command as far as who's attached to what student facing location, like who in the district is directly attached to different schools, I think would be really helpful, or for what specifically. This is great, and I think that we can still do more for the public, and for our staff too. I think sometimes I work for the county, and so I go through the same thing, and it's like, okay, who is the next right person up to either bring a concern to or ask a clarifying question, so that we're being as efficient as possible with our people.
That's great.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is in our specific department site pages, but it doesn't exist in a place like this. And so
I think one thing I'd like to end with is just in paying attention to tonight's meeting, I heard several times mentioned, or the question was asked, who's going to provide the training for something? And it made me think of exactly this sort of thing, is that we have to always remember that we have to have somebody to provide the training. And it's hard to find those people in the central office because they have so many things to do. Like right now, this year, we finally have someone that's going to be providing training, but that's always something we want to be focused on, remembering who's going to be providing training to the staff. So thank you.
Trustee Kirby?
Yeah, just to follow on with what Director Jenkins was saying, this, a former military guy, chain of command, I always knew who I was reporting to, who was evaluating me. So when I look at like this, especially this first chart here, I know there was a little bit of confusion last year, maybe with even some of our admin teams at some of the schools. They weren't sure who they were reporting to at the district and who was responsible for evaluating them. I know that came up a few times, but again, yeah, just being able to know who, I hope they know who they're supposed to be reporting to now and who is evaluating them or who they are reaching out to at the district for help. So I don't, it's a little bit kind of in here on that first slide, but not really. So maybe some clarification would help.
So Dr. Castro has internal charts that are shared with that information for our sites, if you
We
want to.
definitely do. Thank you for that. And now that you mentioned that, I actually wanted to mention that thanks to the recommendation you had brought up a couple of meetings ago, we actually had one of my executive directors remembered and had, for example, a chart turned in from every school with respect to the administrative duties that each vice principal and principal has. So we now have that, and we'll be organizing it into a chart across the board for everybody to be able to just pick up and look at. So we're trying to get a lot more organized with respect to those sorts of things.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, then we can move on to approval of the
Motion to approve minutes of the regular board meeting held on August 13th, 2025.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Delatorre, seconded by Trustee Caston. Roll call vote.
Student Board Member Carrillo,
Aye.
Student Board Member Olivera,
Aye.
Trustee Jenkins. Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee De La Torre,
Aye.
Trustee Caston,
Aye.
Trustee Jenkins,
Aye.
Trustee Kirby,
Aye.
President McNally.
Aye. Motion passes. Are there any board member requests for information? Trustee Jenkins?
I don't know where I wrote it down. It's not in front of me, but I would like information on, shucks. One of them is HR processes as far as transfers and promotions that are not under unions with admin. I'm curious about what the process is, if we have a policy on it, what the process is. It seems, I'm getting feedback that things are muddy, and so I'm just wondering what we have in place. And the other one is related to honors classes and AP classes. I was at an equity training and some stuff came up about schools, and I'm wondering what we have in place, policy or procedure process around students who are, is the correct term ELD, English language?
English learners?
Thank you. English learners, as well as something came up about a box checked for like an immigrant status and then not being able to take honors classes. And I don't know if that's within our district at all. It's just that it was a reoccurring theme in this training. So I'm wondering what our process, policies, procedures are around students being able to take honors classes that then, you know, that impacts their GPA, which then impacts post-secondary learning. So wanting to learn, what do we have on that? Thanks.
Any other requests for information? All right, meeting adjourned.